What is going on, everybody? trueeevil here, and today I'm going to walk you through on how to beat a Bloodbath Tiamat composition in Etheria Restart RTA. Now, this is a really classic team composition, and a lot of people, once you get to Diamond, are going to have a built Tiamat. Now, the important part of Tiamat is that you can pivot to it incredibly easy as long as that third pick is open for Tiamat. You are able to build a team around her, and you'll just see a lot of teams do this to try to counter, say, speed cleave or possibly a CC controlled team. It really depends. Now, what I do to beat this personally in the draft stage is I like to draft control and then pivot to either full on control or bruiser line. That is how I like to play this game, and usually what happens is they start off either going bruiser or they start off going revelation cleave, and then they decide to do the pivot. And when they do the pivot, since it's absolutely essential to have two healers if you're using Tiamat as your main DPS to really just keep the blood stacks flowing and keeping her alive, what you're going to usually end up happening is 3 sustains, that 1 DPS or bruiser, and the Tiamat protected. And in the draft level, I will always ban the sub DPS, and unfortunately a lot of people said that isn't really how this game goes, even though pretty much every single match I've seen with a Tiamat from Plat to Masters did this. So, you know, maybe we are living in alternate worlds, but I'm going to humor them, and instead of doing the optimal ban, which I did in that video, I'll link it in the description where you can see that game. That's how I recommend beating it, but because people don't think that's real, what we're going to do is just ban the hardest sustain to deal with in those teams and leaving either the Revelation Cleave unit, which most of the time is Yelly, since everyone dropped on the Yelly train, even though I hard stand that Messiah is infinitely better than Yelly, and then we are just going to let it go. And there's going to be a couple of different iterations of it, and one of them I actually really didn't want to do this, but since people wanted to see that content and they don't believe the 3 sustain thing is real, I decided to actually fight a Heinrich, which is something I absolutely do not do. He is banned on site for me, but you know, I'm doing this for you, my viewers. So without further ado, let's get in the matches and I'll explain how to beat them. Now, what ended up happening in this match is they started off with that Revelation Yelly, which was obviously a trap pick, and what I did was obviously start off with Kazuyo because she is the best way to win at this video game. Then they immediately pivoted into the Tiamat team. I opted to ban their Valerian, and they opted to ban my Rahu, which is a pretty smart. I would also ban the Rahu here. And I would have banned the Yelly, but a lot of you said that the 3 sustain Tiamat isn't real life. So just, you know, I'm humoring you here. Now, what you do if you do not leave them at the 3 sustains in the Tiamat is you always sort of go for the Yelly. And if you have a Kazuyo like I do, I generally always try to start off as a CC team and then I pivot to bruisers, and because of that I am usually always going to have some type of CC. What I'm doing here is I'm making it so that the Yelly can't really act and do damage, and if there is a time I'm going to try to stop Sonya. Now, it's going to be extremely difficult to lay down the CC because of Ling Luo, the Whale's Prayer heal. I believe that is what cleanses on the Purify. I don't really understand how it works because I'm too busy squashing them that hard, but so basically what we're doing is we're not caring about the Tiamat because, as I said, it is a Bloodbath Tiamat, and that means if we go for it, we're just generally not going to win. Now, one thing to notice is I did attack the Tiamat there, and that was because I didn't want to really wake them up. Even though it kind of doesn't make sense to do that, since, of course, the Ling Luo is going to wake them up anyway. But, you know, want to give that chance because my Holden is jacked, boys. He's going to be one-shotting that Rev unit, just like he one-shots every single Rev Cleave unit, besides, say, like a Bloodbath Messiah, which is really good way to build Messiah right now. And Now we are at that point where he has the option to either use his Sonya to resurrect the Yeli or do it on the Tiamat. Now, personally, what I would be doing is just bulking up the surviving units and let the Yeli go to waste, because what we have now is that if he does waste the revive on the Yeli, then of course we are just going to one-shot it with our Holden, because our Holden likes to party. So now we sort of understand how that works. At this point, what we're going to go for, of course, is the Sonya, because we want to stop the resurrection. That is going to be the biggest thing to deal with. And of course, we're going to lay down some noise. And if it ever gets down low enough, we're going to pivot, of course, to the Tiamat. It really depends on how the counters on the Holden work out. Now, as you can see, the Holden is pretty beefy. I really do enjoy this. And as you can see on the resurrection target, they did the Yeli. So now, of course, we pivot. And that pivot is going to be really good. It's how you're going to win at this video game. We aren't trying to win fast, we're trying to win smart. I really recommend doing that. And one thing I will talk about on that is that the longer the match goes, the more damage we do, and that's really important to note. And as you can see, the Bloodbath Tiamat just doesn't do enough damage if you do pivot to bruisers with however your team is looking. So, I would recommend that. You want to have at least two of the, like, say, three big angles. You want to have a control, bruiser, and cleave. Those are the three options. You want to be able to have two of those for the pivot, because I don't really count Tiamat in either of those three. If you're going to do this full-on Tiamat team, I actually count this as like a unique variable of that, because I don't think it's really control, because it's just like heals on heals, and it's not really bruiser in my opinion, because, well, you're not making any bruises, right? You're just not losing because you have Bloodbath. So they're going to probably just quit because they're like, oh no, I'm not going to win this. Not even that though. So one thing I would say is, if you are going to go that method, I don't like doing Tiamat as just like the sole damage dealer and try to outlast them. I do get it, because you're going to do more damage the fight goes on, but you're also going to get healed less. So that is a big problem, because if they can out damage you after like 20 minutes and they're not losing from attrition, there's no way for you to win. So that's going to be a big way for you to win. I hope that was a really helpful explanation. Now, the next clip we're going to be watching is, of course, with the scary Heinrich. Heinrich is one of the scariest things to play against in this video game, in my opinion. Some people may think Messiah is the scariest thing. I think Heinrich is the scariest thing. So without further ado, let's get on that clip and see how we deal with that version. Now, in this fight, he did the smart move. Instead of 3 sustains, he had Viper, Heinrich, and Tiamat. He picked the Viper as his 5th pick, and honestly, that's the scariest part, especially with how my team ended up. What's going to be really hard for me to deal with the Heinrich is I'm not going to get the backup stacks because of the block, and it's going to make my first couple of turns really, really difficult. But luckily, I don't think we're in that big of a problem, because we know the Tiamat is going to have a Bloodbath, and we're not really going to have to worry about anything. Now here, we're going to try to strip that immunity, and unfortunately, we weren't able to do it on the attacks. Really unfortunate on that. Now he is juicing up the Tiamat, and basically we're doing the similar style as we did in that last match where we went for that Yeli. Now we're going to go for that Heinrich, because let me tell you, that is some scary stuff, and unfortunately there's just not going to be any way for us to cleanse it, so we're going to be on a little bit of the rough side for the first part of this match. Now it's okay though, because we're going to be able to delay his turn. And one thing you'll notice with his team composition, although his healers are going to have gigabytes, his Heinrich is not going to have any sort of turn meter increase, which means we're able to lay down the noise on him. And we're going to hopefully get some artisan procs to keep our defense up and make it so we don't get absolutely bamboozled. Now we see here, and we get the Heinrich. this is going to be really good because now the Sonya is in that trap of, does she use the revive on the Heinrich? And the answer is no. You should always do it, I think, on, say, the Tiamat. Really get that HP going and just all in on your healers. Maybe even use the Sonya ability on the Ling Luo. Do it on Sonya herself. You're really just trying to make it so these three are the main ones. Once that pivot unit that you did as your first pick, be it Revelation Heinrich, be it Revelation Messiah, be it Revelation Yelly, you want to just forfeit that and really focus on the three, in my opinion, because that's going to end up what's happening there. This happens very, very consistently, so I mean, I'm only talking about my experience, of course. So as you can see, we're down to the 3, and we're going to go back to just laying down the noise on the Sonya. Now, we might attack the Tiamat. It really depends. What ends up happening is if we get a really nice counterattack, we'll just go straight for the Tiamat. And as you can see, I did get some pretty good shots on the Tiamat, and I just decided, you know, Bloodbath isn't anything. You know, we're still going to be popping those big damage numbers, and we're just going to lay down the noise on the Tiamat. Because that is a big thing, right? Tiamat can't whack you if it's knocked out. And if they amber it, well, we can just whack them even more. Because the best thing with this, although he's getting that turn meter increase with the double gigabyte team and a bunch of immunity, well, I don't really care if they have immunity because I'm not trying to do debuffs, I'm trying to whack them because they banned my Kazuya. And unfortunately, when you ban the Kazuya, it is time to understand that we will be giving you those slaps because I am Kazuya Gaming and you forced it, so I can't do that. So your Sonya has now left the building. As you can see here, we lay down the noise and the Sonya is not existing, so we can go for the Tiamat here. You may think you want to go for the Ling Luo, but because of how far the fight has gone, we are just going to slap the Tiamat, and right there it would have been a better idea to hit the Ling Luo, but I was trying to show that I have a extremely big chest, and what I mean by that is I can take those slaps because, well, the Bloodbath isn't a lot of damage. And there you have it. On that last match, I purposely let the Heinrich be unbanned because I wanted to show a worst case scenario. I would have left the Viper to be the unbanned unit because I don't really have to worry about the debuffs that much, and the D-spell isn't really a big deal to me because I'm using Doki Doki, which has a undispellable buff. But of course Heinrich is able to have block, so I just never get the backup stacks to begin with, and that causes a lot more trouble for me, as well as the Revelation is going to have my HP low. But the reason I left it unbanned is to prove a point that the Bloodbath Tiamat just doesn't do a whole lot of damage. So if you're able to make the match last for longer than say 3 minutes, you're usually good to go, in my opinion, on beating them. And if you do leave it to a non-3 sustain in a Tiamat, you'll want to go for, of course, the sort of other bruiser unit that isn't the Tiamat, because they're most likely going to be easily beatable. If they do have Bramble, you can test if they have Bramble with the waters. I would avoid hitting the Tiamat, but sometimes it doesn't matter because, well, I just purposely think that Bloodbath Tiamat doesn't do any damage, so you don't really have to worry about that. And yeah, that's really about it. Thank you so much for watching, and please hit a like and subscribe if you can. It would really mean a lot to me. So see you guys next time.